Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Bobby. This is Quincy Squid Garage. Our project that we're working on right now is our 1989 Jeep YJ. This is a 4.2 liter engine. This is a carbureted engine. So we've pretty much tore this thing down. I think I got like a 45-minute video of breaking down the top end, removing the engine from the Jeep. Our previous video, we built up, we changed out the camshaft. We changed out the sprocket, all the timing gears and everything, and reapplied our timing cover and our harmonic balance and everything, made sure all that was going in. So if you need to see that, check the previous video that we did. I'm making a playlist on all these Jeep kind of related things in case you're doing a build up on yours. So what we're going to do today is, and I should have did it in the last video, but we're going to install our lifters. I've got some wash tape covering the top of this. Top of these cylinders to prevent FOD and stuff from getting in there. But we're going to install our lifters, and then we're going to do our cylinder head. So I've got some valves that I got to lap and install in the cylinder head. So we got a whole new top end on this thing, and then we'll be slapping that bad boy on here with a new head gasket and our new valve cover gasket and all that. So this one could get lengthy, so I'm going to try to, well, I never shut up, so, but I'll do my best. Thanks a lot. So here we are with our lifter installation and removal tool. Pretty much what this is you'll use a 7/16 wrench and then wind this down, and there's a ball bearing in here that's going to expand this into your lifter head. All right, so we'll wind this back out. So we got neighbors out here having a good time. So you'll put this in the top of the lifter, spin it in, tighten with your wrench. And this slide hammer is for removal, so you can whack these joints out. And now this is gonna hold steady, and you can apply some engine buildup grease or just regular lube oil and slide these into your hole. If you don't have one of these, I didn't have one till this build because normally I just use a magnet, and here's my magnet that I normally use, and you can utilize that and plop right down in the hole. Same thing, lube that up. Okay, so here's our first one we're going to put in. We're going to use the lifter removal and install tool. I have lubed up this lifter. I'm going to go right in here and just let it find the sweet spot. It's easier to do it with this tool than the magnet because you have a little bit more control over it. And now, bam, it's right in there. And then you're going to use your 7/16 wrench. Kind of break this torque. Try not to let that slide hammer drop, which just happened. But break that torque, and then, bam. So get in there so they can see. All right, so one lifter installed. Now we'll do the next one with the magnet. All right, so here's the second one going in. We're going to use the magnet this time. Now the magnet is going to stick to the rest of the cylinder on this block because it's a magnet. But once you find the sweet spot, boom, now you're installed. Okay, well it came up a little bit, but more or less, get in there so they can see it.
Oh, my finger got in the way.
All right. So, since I do have the lifter install tool, I'm going to rinse, repeat, do the rest of them with this instead of the magnet. It's just a little bit easier because you have a little bit more control over it. So you saw how I put those lifters in one of two ways. If you don't have this, I think I paid 20 bucks for this at Napa. Nobody else in town had it. I could not get the lifters out of this thing without this because I pulled them without doing the bottom end or anything at that time. So this worked great. So something to keep in the arsenal. So we'll put the rest of those in, and then we'll get to the valves. Okay, I kind of lied. I went ahead and just went with the magnet. It was much faster than using the tool. Well, we got all new lifters, new camshaft, new valves, new head, new timing. It's going to be a flash engine. Oh, we got new push rods over there too, obviously. So, all right, on to the head. Okay, so I started looking at this head and removed a couple valves. There's a little chip that I'm a little bit concerned about, so I'm taking the head over to a machine shop. They're called Chico's. It's up on off of Western in Oklahoma City. I'm going to drop it off with him, let him port and polish it, just do the damn thing right. Port polish, put all new valves, all new springs, the whole 9 yards. And we'll probably be picking it up in a couple days. So I'm going to drop it off. Gave him all the parts that I have. He's got all the machinery there to do it. I don't. I want to make sure this is good. Even though I am potentially selling this Jeep, but once I get it running and driving around, I might not want to get rid of it. You know how that goes. So, well, we'll see you in a few days. Okay, here we are at the machine shop. This is Chico's, downtown Oklahoma City. I wouldn't say downtown. It's off of Western. Real nice guy in here. Knows exactly what he's doing. So we're going to go ahead and pick up this cylinder head and get it home and throw it on the Jeep. Yeah, this is important. Okay, here we are inside Chico's. He's in there working on our head right now. I had to bring some valve stem sleeves. So he's out there putting it together. Said it'll only take a couple minutes. But look at all this. God, this looks like so much fun, doesn't it? What do you think, Emily?
You're really cringy.
I'm cringy? Yeah. Look, that looks familiar. All right, so we'll get this head here in a second, and then we'll get it back home and slap this joint on. Okay, so, well,
There's a day.
yeah, guy back there wanted to make too much noise. Well, we've got our cylinder head here, port and polished, looking fantastic. Thanks to Mr. Chico. $220. All new valves, new springs, the whole 9 yards. Had to get him some valve seats, so it took an extra day. But look how gorgeous this looks. $220. So let's get a shot of his shop here. Fantastic. If you're in Oklahoma City, come see Chico. Great stuff. Well, it's getting a little bit cold, so I put my hoodie on. We're gonna go ahead and install this cylinder head, but I wanted to share this little cat with you real quick. This is I guess a blue whale, I don't know. When I picked up that cylinder head up at Chico's, this gentleman was selling this on the side of the road right up there on Western in Oklahoma City. He's got his name on the back. His name's Jerry Collins. I already called him up, asked him if it was okay to put this in the video. So his number is 405-812-4583, and he says, I will make anything. So he's gonna make me a squid to hang on the wall for the channel. This is for my daughter, Emily, 20 bucks, some reclaimed wood, and he's out there doing something, and you know, more power to him, rock and roll. So thanks a lot, Jerry, for that. So let's go ahead and put this head on and get cracking. First thing I'm doing here is all our head mount bolts, cleaning them up, inspecting them. I don't think these have been used more than once. They're not painted. Usually if you use them more than once, someone will paint the tip. But I'm just gonna check all the threads and clean them in the parts washer here, and then lube them up. Make sure they're good first before you reuse them. Okay, so when you're cleaning these bolts, just looking at the threads. One focus, guy. Hold on. There we go. So when you're cleaning these bolts, you're looking at your threads, making sure there's no gunk in there, and that there's no separation or burrs or anything on there. And these should hold a torque just fine. If they have been reused, generally they'll be painted on the tips, where we will do that at the end, in case it's not me taking this thing apart next time. And for the next guy to know to go ahead and change these. The book says you can reuse them once, which in reality, you could probably reuse these multiple times. It's a Jeep inline 6, pretty reliable. So, all right, we got our gasket kit here. This comes with the head gasket, intake and exhaust manifolds, and valve. Oh, we got a valve cover gasket in here. Perfect. I just bought another one. Don't need it. Bunch of stuff. So we're going to open this up. We're going to put the cylinder head gasket on here, and then we're going to stab our head. So looks like this is our jam right here. Now this thing should only be able to go one way. It looks like that's it right there. So you got ports here for your water, your you know, whatever, radiator fluid. So if you Nah, that don't work. That don't work. So right here. Right here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and spray some copper spray on here on both sides. There's a debate on that, whether you should do that or not. I prefer to do it, especially if it's not a textured gasket, which this is not, this is flat. So that will help the seal to both the block and the head. So we'll go ahead and, where's that bag? Ah, there we go. Jam up right here. Copper spray gasket, high temp sealant. Good stuff. So we'll go ahead and spray this and then we'll stab our head on here. So before we put this on, and we put that sealant on, I did check the whole top of the block here with a feeler gauge, make sure this is completely flat. All right, you want a good seal. And then I cleaned out all the holes, the mount holes. So this is the one bolt, this forward bolt on the driver's side, that actually this bolt goes all the way through into the water pump area. So this one's gonna get some Permatex for a different seal. These ones here are all just gonna get lube oil to install. All right, so we'll go ahead and lube those bolts up, get everything ready, because when I spray this, I wanna be able to put it on with haste. Now we'll get some bolts in here, line it all up. Here we got an example of the type of Permatex you want to use on that forward bolt that goes into the water pump cavity. You don't want to just use regular lube oil like the rest, because then you'll have a mixture of oil and water. And that's not good. All right, putting this first one in, we're just going to snug her down. And then we'll start at the back with all the others. Click, click, click. Calibrated tendons. Do the other ones now. Look at the bolt. Some general oil here. Some motor oil. Let's lube these threads up. And then now, install here and tighten down. We'll go ahead and do all these other ones, run them down just like this one, and do the torques. All right, nice and smooth. Using speed handle for speed. Just running the last two down now by hand. We'll break out our torque wrenches. We're gonna torque all of these in a sequence pattern, starting from the center. So here, and then, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, set, you know, so it torques evenly across the head. We're gonna do 3 or 4 torque sequences so it seats evenly and you don't have a head gasket leak in the future. So we'll get into that real quick. Okay, here's my official manual. So front of the head, back of the head, center 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Blase, blase. So we're going to start at a 22 foot-pounds. Do that whole side. 45, 45 again to make sure that there's no drag torque on there, that they're holding the torque. And then the final torque is going to be 110, all except this front bolt that goes into the water pump. That one that we put that Permatex, well, it's both Permatex, but that special sealant on that goes into the water pump, that one's going to be 100. So we're going to start with 22. And then these are my other torques for building up the rest of the head. So 22 foot-pounds. Ooh, come on, guy. This might move the stand when I get up to 110. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll go ahead and continue with this sequence. All right, so we're doing the 45s now. Went ahead and upgraded to a bigger torque wrench here because I'm going to need it for the 100s and 110s. So this is our first round of 45. Now, after you're done with your cross torquing of the 45, you want to go around and just make sure they all hold a torque at 45 without the torque wrench moving on you. So we'll start at the center and just work our way around and make sure that they didn't move. If they moved again, cross torque them again. Good. Just repeat this all the way around. And if you're good, you can move on to the 110. Save your last bolt for that 100. All right, this is our first round of 110. Remember when you get here, change your torque wrench down to 100. Okay, so I need you to hold the stand because it's moving the whole stand when I try to torque these last end bolts here and here. So we're torquing these to 110. This one's at 100 because it's the special one going under the water pump. So we bumped our torque wrench down. Yep. All right. Now do those two. Okay, back to 110. All right. Okay, now it's time to install our valve train. So when we disassembled, some of these parts are different, so I had my kid label each one in a bag, which one we are. So we're gonna take each one out, wash them in the parts washer, and reinstall. So unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to spin the motor when it's on this stand because I still got the clutch on here. I didn't take any of that off. I'm gonna have to do it on the cherry picker. So when we find top dead center for each one of these, but because we just did the camshaft and all that, I know that we are at top dead center, number 1 on the intake stroke of this one. So we're gonna go ahead and install everything, put our rods in and just kind of tighten them up, and then we'll do our torques because you wanna do your torques when they're even. So we're gonna have to cycle the crankshaft to do the torques on each cylinder. So we'll go ahead and clean these up and go ahead and mock this thing up. So we got our freshly cleaned rocker arm here for the number 1 cylinder. All right, I did get new push rods for each one because we did have 3 bent push rods. So I just went ahead and ordered all new ones. So I've already pre-lubed these with some engine grease. All right. So the hole here, you don't want to plug this hole up with anything because these are hollow, and it takes fluid from that lifter that we put in earlier all the way up through this rod, and that's what connects into your rocker arm here. If you notice there's a little hole in here, that will lubricate the top of this and your valves. So when you set these in, make sure you're in that lifter. All right. And since we're top dead center number 1, top dead center number 6, we can go ahead and install these. And I'm upside down here. And just kind of finger tight these on. And make sure your rod is seated in that groove. And then this is what's going to push your valves down. So as the cylinder comes up, intake and exhaust stroke is going to push the corresponding valve down. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten those up and rock and roll. Okay, so we're just going to snug these down here. And then we'll go ahead and install number 6 since we're here. And we'll go ahead and do the other ones. But we will torque these later because I have to put them at top dead center to torque them so there's the least amount of pressure off of these. You don't want to torque them because you want the springs up, all right? Which is where we're at on 1 and 6. So when we put these other ones on, we're just going to finger tight these in until we move that cylinder to top dead center and so on. So we've got all our push rods in, and it looks like this one's a little wonky. So I'm just going to take a light and make sure that they're all seated in those lifters. And I know this one is not, and it is not. Before you start putting the top end on. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do number 6. since it's at top dead center already, and then we'll cycle these other ones accordingly. Rock and roll. Torque is 19 foot-pounds for these. So we're gonna go ahead and do 1 and 6 real quick. And then we will reciprocate on the other 4 once we get them at top dead center. Fantastic. Installing our last rocker arm now. So what I like to do when I install these, just kind of mock them up. Make sure they're seated. You're gonna pull this back out, put a little of that lube just like that. Now on this bevel, I mean, honestly, it really shouldn't matter. You probably could torque all these down. I prefer to do it at top dead center on each cylinder, so there's less resistance. But in reality, you're gonna be tightening these up a little bit as the engine's turning, because you're gonna hit a little bit of knocks here and there from, you know, it's just a Jeep thing. You wouldn't understand. So loosen, tighten these up. And then we'll go ahead and just snug these other ones down. Like I said, 1 and 6 are already torqued. We'll snug these down, and then when I get on the cherry picker, I'll move our crank, get top dead center here, and torque them with as little resistance on the valves as possible. But in reality, you could probably torque them all to 19 right now and call it a day, and then just adjust as you needed when the engine's turning. Like I said, you'll hear a little valve, little tappy taps. So you can tighten these up and just work with that at idle. So, all right, let's snug those down just so they are installed, and then go through and make sure they're all still in the lifter. We got a new thermostat, so we're gonna put this bad boy in. Our water pump, we'll install that. We got new gaskets, obviously, for all that. And we'll go ahead and put some of the accessories on the side, maybe, and then we'll get this thing hung. All right, so water pump's installed. Now we're putting our pulley on and our fan. I'm debating on doing the alternator and the power steering brackets when we get it in the bay. We're doing it now. Probably just do it in the bay, probably be easier. Probably be easier to put this fan on in the bay, to be honest. We might take it off if it's getting in our way. But with the radiator out of the way, it should be fine. All right, so the cherry picker's fully supporting it. Engine stands off. I got my 2 sockets back that I was looking for, that we're holding the engine stand bolts in, because I'm a dummy. So we had the valve cover on here just for aesthetics, just to keep stuff from getting in there. But now that I can move this crankshaft, we put a new clutch on. That'll be a separate video. But now we can go ahead and torque the rest of our valve train here by moving to top dead center on each one of these. And like I said, that's your discretion. You can torque them all and then just peek and tweak as you're turning the engine, because Jeep inline 6s do have a tendency to do a little valve tap. So if you hear that tapping when you're driving or anything like that, you can come in here and check your torques. Just kind of tighten them up while the engine's running at idle until that tick goes away. And 9 times out of 10, that'll fix your issues. So I'm going to go ahead and torque those, and then we're going to stab this joint. Engine's in. My kid's laughing at me because I'm physically beat to death here.
Guys, the engine's in.
Yeah.
The engine's in, my guys.
Yeah, well, it's stabbed. We're not going to edit this because it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm exhausted. But the engine's in, mount bolts are in, exhaust manifold's on. I did torque all the top end, all those valves, the valve seats and everything. Those are all torqued. We did do the clutch. That's a separate video for that. And yeah, so right now we're looking at hooking up accessories and then getting everything serviced up. Starter's sitting over there, and guess what? I lost the bolts, so we'll have to go finger that one out. Getting ready to put the power steering pump in. When we took it out, the line was jacked up, so we did make an acquisition, got a new line, so this joint will be going in. And you know what? I think I'm going to call this video. I'm going to call this video, and we're going to post this one just like this, just says the top end buildup and stab, and then we'll do all the accessories on another video. So the video is not 1,000 minutes long. Okay, so all right. You recording?
Yeah, you gotta do it.
All right.
Come on. Outro.
Make sure you guys. I'm beat down. Like, subscribe, smash the bell for more awesome content, because we're getting really good at this. And,
Yeah, we're so awesome.
And there was something else. Comment.
Yeah.
Because I like that. I actually respond to all that stuff. So, jam up.
Yeah.